And folks, in the upper left here, in the red, newly of team, or excuse me, of Onside Gaming, it's Ryung.
And his opponent spawning down in the southeast of Gravon, it is Cham for Team GP. And something we didn't mention going into this is that these are former teammates. Now, granted, you know, take it with a grain of salt. There's obviously a language barrier, and they wouldn't have necessarily communicated significantly. But there might have been a little bit of communication regarding, or I guess going around WTL matches. And like, hey, like this is what this opponent's weakness is. And especially a player who has such a great strategic mind as Ryung, and a player who thinks so outside the box like Cham, there is a really good chance that they may have, you know, shared strategies and kind of bounced ideas off of one another.
Yeah, that would be really nice to see, you know? Well, I don't know if it would be actually, because then you get the fancy team kill stuff. But regardless, you know, whether they share things, whether they don't share things, I don't know that we're going to see anything too crazy here at the start, right? It's game one. We saw Ryung in that last series. He went 3CC, you know, he got himself into a decent position before Su suplexed him into the ground. But, you know, that seemed to be the way he wanted to play. And that's how he has always found his modicums of success in this matchup. You know, you go late, you go Maru style, you go super turtle heavy, you win in the late game. Because that is actually like the one part of the game where Ryung is pretty good. Otherwise, yeah, he just, I don't know what it is. It just seems like he doesn't have the mechanics that, specifically the TVZ mechanics that he needs to succeed.
Yeah, there's a certain level of speed that's required that you just need to be so fast. And, you know, as I get a little bit older, I realize I'm slowing down a little bit. That speed doesn't help me too much. And of course, Ryung, he has been around the block and back. He's really, you know, repping the older players here, but it's tough. It's tough to keep up with these young guns. Now we got something already very interesting. First of all, nice Ling pickoff, 6 Ling opener for Cham. So losing a unit there, you really don't want to in that situation. And we've got a fast third CC against a very quick Overlord speed play from Cham. This is a great build order situation for Ryung. Like this is just this, unless it's like a 2-port BC follow-up, which I highly doubt we're gonna see. I mean, getting the Overlord speed for the scouting really isn't gonna tell you much.
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting now that you think about it. I don't know what we're going to see just yet, but yeah, at first glance, yeah, Ryung, he's got a minor advantage. I don't know if this is Cham looking at the previous series that Ryung played versus Su and realizing that Ryung did go for, you know, some level of aggressive stuff, the quick armory for Widow Mine drops, things of that nature. And he's like, you know, I don't want to lose to that. But yeah, certainly he's going to find himself just a little bit further behind. But this is Cham Steadfast. This is a Cham that has absolutely no issues with going for things like roach pushes, 1-1 roach. And, you know, Respawn, that might be a map that does have that wide open third that allows you to, you know, hammer right on through.
But like, I just got to say, look at the worker count right now. Cham's worker count was significantly delayed by this. So he kept mining gas in order to afford both the Ling speed and the Overlord speed. Like this came at a cost. And now there's a Viking on the way. He started Cloak. He actually cancels it. I really love that play from Ryung because Cham, he saw this. He is almost certainly going to build Spores. If he doesn't, that would be an extremely greedy play. Now, he might say like, oh, you went for the Viking. Ooh, he is going to rescout. Okay, that's a great decision from Cham here. And he's going to see that, yeah, no, there's no cloak. It was a fake. So that's actually really good from Cham and super important, I think. But, well, you talked about 1-1 Roach. I mean, that's kind of looking like the direction we might be heading.
Yeah, I guess the good news here is we're not going to see, or at least it doesn't look like we're going to see one of those really aggressive build, or one of those strong tech focused builds that we saw Ryung go for against Su, where he went for Cloaked Widow Mines against a 1-1 Roach play that just smashed his face in. He is developing his tech a little bit more. He's got Stim on the way. He's adding in these additional barracks. In fact, well, never mind, his third base is up, so he will at least have, you know, some level of production, and he does have that. It's going to be a tech lab on the factory immediately, so he's going to get into that tank pressure, or that tank play, that tank supply, and that's going to be really the most important thing here as Ryung looks to hold on to what might be a pretty committed build coming in from Cham.
Yeah, Cham not starting his +1 missile just yet. And that's actually a big problem. Like, this timing is really looking to take advantage of that. By the way, Ryung finds himself a second Overlord that, with speed and this far into Zerg territory, he should never have been able to have found. So that's really nice. And that actually did supply block Cham. Cham actually kind of brutally blocked and now building a lot of the Laser Lords here.
Well, you know what? He may want those Laser Lords anyways, because it's now the time where you start to build the roaches a little bit, at least defensively, and you do want to clear supply block, or supply after that, but yeah. Supply blocks, never all that great. And there we go. Finally, +1 missile is on the way. And now what we're looking for here is, because I did say, oh, you know, Cham's going to commit to this, and then he takes the fourth. Does he actually drone this fourth base up? Or is this just going to be 66 drones and extra production on location coming in for Cham? And for right now, 3 more Overlords are on the way, building more and more roaches. It seems like it will be the former Cham. Well, he is moving into that pressure, and Ryung, for his part, he does have 1 tank on the map, second one on the way, but he's got to figure out what's happening. And I don't think he hasn't seen a single roach. I don't know that he's seen it in the roach war, and he doesn't really know that this is what Cham is going for.
Yeah, he has just checked his vision. He has not seen the Evo Chambers or the Roach Warren. They're put in such a random position that, yeah, how would you expect this? We did see Su kill Ryung with this. However, that was on a map that was much more wide open and much better for the 1-1 Roach. But look at this. We've got a counterattack coming on in as Ryung is looking to hit the fourth base. Oh, this is going to be weird. Will Cham have enough to hold right now against this push while he slams in? Oh, the wall is not full. Uh-oh, that's a big problem here for Ryung. That really makes things a lot easier to get in. And a lot of SCV is going to fall, but is this worth it? This is going to be all the roaches potentially going down. And I think Ryung saved most of his army on the front line.
Yeah, but he didn't get the fourth base, and this is 11 SCVs going down. He's going to find himself supply blocked pretty soon. He's got to bring his entire army back home. So yeah, you know, Ryung kept a lot of his army alive, but I don't think that matters. He didn't get the damage done. Roaches, Ravagers on the right side. Biles will not land. But again, Ryung pretty soon, he will, I mean, he's dropping some depot top hats, I guess, but he pretty soon will not be able to do anything. And now Roaches coming in from the right side, Ravagers as well. Now, Marines are going to kill the Roaches on the left side, sure, but it will be more economic damage even still for Ryung at this point as Cham continues to run forward. And he's not really, this is not an all-in anymore, right? Biles will not land. It seems like Ryung's going to get on top of the Ravagers, trying to trade as well as he can, but the Roaches are still doing a great job. The Marines aren't fighting them. So even now, as Ryung gets on top of these Ravagers, it's not really enough. And the Roaches, they can run away at this point. They can deny the third base. They can do whatever they want. Because Cham, he's got his hive on the way. He's up now on 78 workers. He's done the damage that he needs to Ryung to force Ryung into a pretty damn bad spot in this game. But man, Cham, he's happy. He's got the fourth base, fifth base on the way soon enough. He didn't lose the base that Ryung was trying to kill.
No, he didn't. And like you said, he's been able to drone it up significantly. He's up to 77 drones right now. He didn't run away with the army supply. And a lot of his army supply right now is highly inflated in the form of those roaches. But he killed a ton of Ryung's depots. How many depots did he kill in this game? 9 depots in this game. And Ryung is still not fully on supply block yet. I mean, he's been really knocked back. And I think more so than anything, it is the loss of those depots that has crippled Ryung in this game. Because if he could have been continuously pumping out units, he never was at a point where he was fully knocked back by this attack. But unfortunately, he just, he hasn't been able to keep up. He won't have like a big timing where his upgrades are going to be far superior. It's going to be a small timing where he's got 2-1 versus 1-1. And, oh, Corrosive Bile will land on one of these Vikings, but, or well, will land one of the Biles, but not enough to get more. Ryung going to try and hit and take out the fifth base, and he'll get a cancel on that. That's nice. But this is a lot of creep right here. And there's a lot of things going well for Cham, and not too sure how Ryung can get back in this game.
Yeah, it's kind of fun too. I mean, it's a very different game, right? Legacy is not Wings of Liberty, but Roaches into Infestors into Broodlords, it's an iconic combination. The Ravager's okay. Maybe that breaks it down a little bit. But the key thing here is Cham is not sitting on his laurels. Now, you talk about his supply inflated, and it is. Roach's Ravager, sure, but he is using that to get himself into a much more powerful army composition. Or not the Disruptors, excuse me, the Broodlords, the Infestors, these things that now that Ryung is behind, he won't have ghosts. He won't have enough tanks to really deal with it the way he would like. And that just makes this composition that is already difficult to fight into that much harder. So it's going to be Ryung relying on his multitasking, on his counterattacks, on his drops to try to buy the time that he needs to build the tech that he needs to come back into this game. But Steadfast, Roach's Ravagers, they're already on the other side. Greater Spire is just about done. I don't know that Cham is going to give Ryung the time.
It seems like he certainly does not want to. We do have the counterattack coming in once again on the 5th base. Attacking into tanks is it's a little questionable, but there's not a ton of tanks here. A lot of SCVs being pulled. Nice fungal growth on those Marines. And maybe this gets cleaned up, but even if it does, well, actually a lot of Ravagers low on HP. Another fungal growth. There is the drop somehow in the main base. Is that the same drop that went off to the 5th? It is, and it's actually going to find a Greater Spire. Oh, that's a huge snipe. That will give Ryung a little bit more life back in this game.
Now, Steadfast, that's massive. That is 3 Broodlords on the way. The Corruptors were not done by the time that happened. So now, yes, Ryung has lost 26 SCVs. The Fungals are going to start to chain up, kill a lot of these Marines, or at least maybe not kill them after all. But he only has 3 Broodlords. This timing, he wanted to go up to 7, 8, 9 and end the game. Now Ryung, he got the 5th base once again. He got the Greater Spire. The Biles will not land. There's a couple Corruptors, which I guess, they're nice and knocking down drops, but it's 4 Corruptors. It's 3 Broodlords. And look at what Cham's doing. He's not going to try to go into, I mean, I guess he is. He's rebuilt the Spire, but he's got a Hydra Den on the way. He understands he needs more. His army is rapidly aging out of this game. And yeah, sure, he's got supply, but this is a 2-2 Terran. It's soon going to be 3-3. It's actually going to be 3-2 very, actually, that's what's going to be. Ryung just needs to survive now. He has bought himself so much time.
That he has, but it's a lot of Roaches right here with 2-2. A good concave. There's only 1 siege tank. It's not getting target fire down, and the Infestors do not have fungal growth at the moment, but there might just be a little too much Cert. It is really close right now. However, I think Cham, he's broken the back of Ryung at this point. That tech snipe was so good, so clutch, but he was just a little bit too far down, and now he's lost too much economy. He's only on 36 SCVs. We can see that Mule Hammer is getting some work done for the income. But even with that, Ryung is pretty decently behind, especially in that gas income. Cham is maxed out. Ryung is on 99 supply. And I don't think there's anything that can really be done here. We've even got 3-3 on the way for Cham's Roaches and soon-to-be Hydras and Lurkers.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of... yeah, there's just a lot here. Now, I guess we can say that, the Broodlords, they're not as impressive as they might have been. They don't last as long. They don't stack up as much. So the Marines can kind of fight it, but it's everything else that we're looking at. Fungals, actually, they're going to whiff a little bit. But again, well, actually, as I say that, here we go. Ryung tries to get on top of things. And the Fungals, they did whiff. And that bought Ryung a little bit of time. He dives forward. But again, as much as I would like to say, wow, that's a big move, it's just because the rest of Cham's army was not there. And now Ryung is starting to knock things down. It's a slow death. It's in drips and drabs. Paper cuts, in fact, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how fast you die, so long as you are dead. And yeah, the Roaches, they're going to be forced back. But the Broodlords, you know what? Steadfast, they were buffed. A lot of movement speed. They can actually run away. The Marines are not going to find the value they want. It's 22 workers. I value Ryung's fighting spirit, but at the end of the day, Cham holds on. He takes this game 1 victory. And has he lost a map in the lower bracket?
Not yet. He has not yet dropped the map in the lower bracket. The only reason that game went an extra minute there at the end is in addition to whiffing the 1 fungal to start off and then a couple additional fungals, he also missed the corrosive biles that let a siege tank in the back get 15 extra shots or something silly like that, like a ridiculous amount of extra DPS. But even with that, Cham runs away with game number 1, hits with the 1-1 Roaches, catches his opponent off guard. And he has come to play. He has come with the builds, and he is looking great.
There we go. So now the question, Steadfast, and I think we were going into this. We were like, okay, wow, Ryung. So I guess when we looked at the lower bracket, it's like, Ryung, he's probably gonna have a really good run. It looks like it's all Terran and Protoss from here on out. And then Cham ruins that dream and kills Harstem. It's like, okay, Ryung, you went from having your dream lower bracket run to having what is kind of a nightmare. Like Cham,
Yeah.
sorry, it's not nightmare. Nightmare is elsewhere in the bracket. If he hasn't already been knocked out, I don't have it in front of me. But yeah, it's it's not great. You have this player that hard counters your style more than anyone else.
Yeah.
Now, we talk about that style. Royal Blood, we talk about Grace Fun. That's a good map for mech. Royal Blood, kind of a similar idea. It has those high ground bases that allow you to like dominate multiple positions at once. But we haven't seen mech from Ryung yet. You know, you've been talking about it. I've been talking about it. But this is 3 straight TVZs. So Ryung has had an opportunity to go mech every time. And it's just not there.
Not there yet, no. Now, yeah, Gravon was a pretty good map for it, but I think Royal Blood is a decent map for it too, especially if you're going to play Battle Mech. The thing is, the difference between playing regular mech and playing Battle Mech, it's pretty substantial.
Yeah.
It's Battle Mech is like almost like playing Bio in a certain way. Heavy Mech is a lot more like playing like almost Sky Toss, you know, like it's a much slower, more methodical, more positional based setup. But we'll hold that thought because we're getting into potentially the final game of the day here on the B stream.
And folks, in the bottom left, his tournament life on the line here. He is for Onside Gaming, Ryung.
And his opponent, spawning up at the top right, showing his class, his quality in the lower bracket. For Team GP, it is Cham. Cham now just one map away from the qualifying match. That is unreal. If you asked me who would make it into the qualifying match of all the 16 players today, I think I might have put Cham as like maybe my second or third last choice. And that's nothing against Cham. That's just the caliber of the players that you would have to go up against. Like, there's a lot of players that I would have given the nod to before Cham. But Cham, he is proving me, he is proving all the naysayers wrong. And he is having the run of his life.
Yeah, I had Cham like first 4 out. He was bottom 5 in terms of overall ranking. He was, you know, number 36 overall in EPT points. Now, granted, that didn't mean he was the number 36 player in Katowice because some players couldn't make it. But he was, I had him bottom 4. I had him first 4 out. Him and T-Bull and some others. You know, he hasn't played that in that many lands. He played in only 4 tournaments this year. Like the two Latin Americas, he got himself to Atlanta, and then he played at Home Story Cup at the end of the year. Like, he has not done much offline. He, you know, doesn't have a lot of land experience. This year, outside of winning Latin America, has not been all that great for him. So to see him turn the taps on here to 2-0 Scarlet, to 2-0 Harstem, to go up 1-0 on Ryung, that's an insane run. But
it is just fantastic for him, yeah. And once again, this is not us disparaging Cham in any way. This is us saying it is so cool to see these kind of storylines emerge and erupt at IEM Katowice, and to see a player who literally came in with one shoe within now one map of getting to a qualifying match. Like, it's something special. You gotta love the magic of this tournament.
yeah, it makes me so happy, right? Being able to see these storylines happen. But that sounds like nice little job there knocking down the creep tumor. But what we got to remember here, Steadfast, it sounds like we're talking about Cham above all else. You know, he's already won this series. That's not true. Ryung does have one, actually he needs 2 maps, but he has a map to drag himself back into this conversation. And it seems like, given everything else, given every opportunity, this is his best possible build in TVZ to stay alive in the tournament. He's going for a 2-1-1.
Yes. Yeah, it's the new style of 2-1-1, the 3cc 2-1-1, so it is off that great eco, but it is nonetheless a high octane, high, you know, APM requirement build. This is the kind of thing that we expect someone like Maru to play or TY to play. We don't necessarily think of Ryung when we think of this, but he already tried playing it against Su. Unfortunately, he did things a little bit differently, and he kind of got not quite hard countered, but he definitely found himself on the wrong end of a build order exchange, and it didn't work out too well for him. We see these Hellions, they look like they wanted to go for a big YOLO into the natural, and they actually would have found only 4 Lings available they had run by, but when you only go for these 4 Hellions, you're really relying on them for the map control, and you don't want to just throw them away and get nothing for it.
I mean, realistically as well, Steadfast, the Hellions, even with map control, I mean, that's nice, but their job is to convince the Zerg that this isn't a 2-1-1. Because
yes.
most of the builds, they're like three or four different 2-1-1 builds, and all but this one, you don't get Hellions. It hits, you move across the map at 4:30, you hit it 5 minutes, whether you add in, you know, a different, you add in something else, you add a third medevac with Widow Mines, whatever it is, they all have the same template. And then there's this other one that gets a third base, that gets the Hellions, hits a little bit later, and it often can be maybe something that the Zerg doesn't scout. But Cham, well, he seems to have some idea, because there's a Roach Warren on the way, but this is not going to be for 1-1 Roach, because he's getting a Baneling Nest at the same time. And you talk about anachronistic builds, old school builds, new school builds. Cham, this is something from the dawn of Legacy of Roach Ravager Ling Bane.
Yeah, there's it's unclear just yet what he's gonna play with this. Likely it will be the melee upgrades, but there's potential for it to go kind of either way. Ooh, and Ryung, okay. Wait, hang on. No, what am I saying? These are just, I see 3 racks on the production tab, and I'm like, 8 racks, is it 8 racks? No, that's the 3rd, 4th, and 5th racks, not the 6th, 7th, and 8th. Ryung wanting to get that hatchery, not going to be able to get it, but he will be able to kind of start disrupting his opponent a little bit. Queens actually getting themselves a little bit off creep, but now we're going to see Ryung able to target down a few of these roaches. This is going to be a kind of nice trade. He gets like, actually, he's going to get quite a few roaches and a queen for just a handful of Marines. That's a great trade for Ryung, actually. Oh, get up into the medevac. No, never mind. He doesn't even need to. He's just going to stutter step back. Look at this. Ryung, 8 Marines for a ton of value here.
Yeah, Steadfast, this is what can happen sometimes against a 2-1-1 when you go for the Roach play. Because if you don't have quite enough, suddenly the Roaches all die, and we can all put this back on one mistake Cham made. He was supply blocked at 98 as more Roaches continue to fall down. Yeah, and Hellions diving in. Oh, okay, they're going to stack up here. Oh, he dodged the block as well, so now Ryung getting even more damage. Oh, they're lined up so hard, Steadfast. 7 workers go down. Is it going to be more? No, they pull away just in time. Good pull. But this is how the drop is still there. When you lose those first 7 Roaches, they don't hit critical mass. All of a sudden, it feels like you can just lose the game. Because the Roaches are so much more expensive on defense, they build so much longer. What has Cham lost here? He's lost a queen. He's lost 10 workers. He's lost a bunch of Roaches. This is looking incredible for the man from Korea.
I'll tell you what he's lost. He's lost his weighted training gear because he just pulled it off and showed his true power level, picking off so many of those units in the main base. Battle report showing that it was an extremely efficient play. And anytime that an opponent goes Roaches and you have a supply lead as the Terran, army supply or otherwise, that is a good time to be a Terran player. As well, I mean, we don't have any Banes available. This is just a small number of units here, and Ryung, not going to be able to get too much done, but he picks off a bunch of creep. And with Banelings being added on, that creep is going to be pretty crucial. Now, Cham does get back on top of this medevac, and he says, hey, you gotta lift up again. But look at it. It's the 5 Marines from earlier. They pick off another couple of drones. They finish off that gas geyser that was low. Ryung is playing great right now. He's turned it on.
He really has. That band of brothers behind the mineral line just getting so much done at this point. But Cham, if he's got a timing, it's going to be soon enough, right? He's going to have 1-1. Banelings are on the way. Baneley speed is also done. So, right, this is, if there's ever a timing, this is the big timing where his entire army becomes much more powerful than it was. But the supplies are pretty even. So, like, yes, Banelings are an equalizer there. But the supplies are fairly even. Even if we talk about, well, power spikes. Ryung feels like he's got enough here. He's going to snipe another. Nope, Queen will stay. No, Queen goes down. Never mind. I was confused. But big drop in the main base. Triple drop here with Marauders this time to fight the Roaches even better. And, well, as the Banelings arrive, it seems like Ryung. Oh, yep, he's going to eat them with the Marauders, but the Marines stay alive. And feels like Cham's getting ripped apart in a game where we've been watching Ryung all day, and it just doesn't feel like his multitasking has been there. So you talk about him taking off the training gloves. I mean, it's just really evident.
Oh yeah, he's playing so great right now. He's really turning it on when he needs to most. When his back is up against the ropes, his last life in this tournament, and he says, "Yeah, this is where we go. This is where we pop off hard." He's gonna have that 2-2 timing, which is such a huge power spike for Bio against the Roach play. In this case, it's obviously Roach Ravager Ling Bane, but that means the upgrades are split for the Zerg player, which means the 2-2 timing is even theoretically more effective. And then, of course, he's going to be able to go straight up into the 3-3 if he so desires. Now, this game is not over yet, but Ryung is playing just very sharp. Ooh, he's got to lift up. Nice job avoiding the Banelings.
Oh, that's a big pressure, though, on the...
Planetary.
Yeah, not a lot of Banelings here, though, so with the repair... okay, Banelings are going to try to kill some of the SCVs. They get 6, but it's 6 SCVs. Ryung is on 70. It's not all that significant. And then triple drop back into the main base once again. Cham now realizing that he's struggling to defend at home, so the best defense is a good offense. Lings and Banes, they try to find their way in, and that's actually significant economic damage there. Banelings get on top of so many SCVs. The Biles are not going to land. Great splits there, Ryung. And Cham now can back out a little bit, but he still lost 12 workers. The main base still in some level of trouble. More queens have gone down, but for the first time in this game, Cham is finding some amounts of damage. Not enough to be ahead, certainly, but at least finding his way back in just a little bit.
I mean, it's nice economic damage, and he finds himself a nice little worker lead now. But it's come at the cost of way too much army. He just threw so much away to get that done. And we see that Ryung has absolutely blasted ahead now in the army supply, and it's much higher quality army supply as well. Marines, Marauders, tanks, medevacs, they are true supply. Roaches and Ravagers, they're kind of a little bit of a fake supply. They're not as bad as Storm Hosts, but they certainly are not supply efficient units. Ravagers, yes. Roaches, no.
Yeah, definitely not. But I guess the one thing we can talk about here, Ryung, whether because of the damage he took or sensing opportunity, his 3-3 is not on the way, which is just an incredible thing for Cham, right? He does not have his hive on the way until just now. Again, we're looking for bright sides. We're looking for the silver lining of a storm cloud, but you gotta point it out. Meanwhile, the drop in the main base continues to find more. The Lings look for the surround, but again, better upgrades on the Marines. They will continue to take good trades here. The Ryung tries to get the queen, not successful, and he is not able to get the base on the upper left side. So it seems like every time now, yes, Cham is still behind, but every time that Ryung goes for pressure at this point, it's getting just a little bit less. Now again, Cham down 40 supply with less effective stuff. Here comes the main pressure from Ryung. It's all been on the edges at this point, but the main thrust now into the fourth base. This is something that's going to be a little bit harder, just a little bit harder for Cham to hold on to.
Yeah, I don't see any way for Cham to hold this push. It's the positioning is way too good. The tanks are set up so nicely. It'll take Ryung blundering this fight pretty hard, and I don't think that's going to happen. He gets a couple of Banelings to the face, but kind of obliterates the front line of Cham, and now it's a 60 army supply lead. We've got the creep finally being cleared up. That fight took place mostly on creep, but as he pulls back to the tanks, the Banelings, they try and close in on this, but it's not going to be enough. We do see some nice corrosive biles clearing up the front line of tanks. Actually, doesn't even finish off this one, unfortunately. Meanwhile, there's actually an attack on the left side. Cham's got no army really to deal with this. A little bit of Ling Bane, and actually it will get a good connection on part of this army. So, I mean, that's about the best case scenario for Cham, and it's still a 40 army supply lead.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing, until right now, okay, yes, the supply is missed that point of 200, but through a lot of those fights, you know, Cham's supply keeps dropping, and Ryung just stays pegged at 200. But now, folks, we get to move into game 3. Ryung absolutely turned it up in that second game. So now it begs the question, Steadfast, of these two competitors. We're going to game 3. Only one can move on to that qualifying match. Who do you got? Is it Ryung? Does he show us the style, the form that he had in game 2? Or is it Cham, who just looked dominant in that first game?
Oh man, that is tough. That is a tough call, because Cham looked locked in for the last 5 maps. Mm-hmm. And then this one, a small little misstep, and Ryung just pounced. And it was a Ryung looking, yeah, like a different Ryung compared to the other games. His multitasking was on point. Everything just looked sharp. I think Ryung has the momentum, and I think he's going to be able to carry it through to a dub here.
All right. Let's see whether the tuna or the man who slew the captain is going to have what it takes to move on to the next round. Now, Steadfast, there's another reason to be excited. You know, we're in game 3 here. It's one map away from qualifying maps. Both these players have had great runs. Cham with the Cinderella story. But we get to move also into a map that we haven't seen yet. And a map that is by far the thing that has me most excited from, like, outside of the players, and it's Katowice. One of, like, the most excited I am about, or how I'm so excited about this tournament. We move into Neo Humanity for our third map in this series. And this map is something we have not really seen before. The base layout is very different. It's short, but it's wide. It's wide open. It's such a cool map. It has something for Terrans, for Zergs, to Protoss, for them all to love. How does this change the metrics on how things are going to go, though? Like, that's the question here. Does this favor Ryung or does this favor Cham?
That is a really good question, because if we see the kind of line third getting taken by Ryung as opposed to the pocket third, it's because, of course, you know, line and pocket, those are the two sign languages. If we see the pocket third, 1-1 Roach, not so bad. If we see the line third, 1-1 Roach is going to be terrible. It's going to run into the most narrow hallway. It's going to get absolutely massacred. I think it's going to depend a lot on early decisions, and we'll see if maybe, you know, one player does something based on the potential of like a 1-1 Roach timing.
Well, we're going to have to see what they have in store for us on this new map, on this new patch. One map away now from the qualifying match, folks. New Humanity is map 3, and we're getting right into it. All right, folks, and here we are in the bottom right, in the red for the last time on the B stream today. It's Ryung.
And his opponent spawning up at the top left for Team GP. He is trying to make the miracle run happen. It is Cham. Now, we do, of course, have to mention, based on the previous game, part of what allowed Cham to, or part of what allowed Ryung to do what he did in that previous game was because of just an amazing opening. Just a small little mistake that Cham made that let Ryung really get some great trades early and really take control of that game from just a very early point off the back of that 2-1-1 that, as you said, all it takes is just a little bit of an underreaction, a little bit of units getting into position a little late, and instead of, you know, all 7 Roaches being there together, first it's 3 Roaches, then 4, then the other ones trickle in, and while that's happening, you know, the Marines are just target firing, and we're gonna have to see if, without that, assuming Cham tightens things up, if Ryung can still kind of power up the way he did in game 2.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy if you think about it. 1 supply block, two Roaches short of a hold, defined that entire game. And that's not something I think we're going to see again. So, well, for now, Ryung, he's got his natural on the way, not showing us any inkling about what he wants to do. What is... Oh, yeah, okay, just SCV blocking the third, which is great, because there's really... This is one of the first maps since Eternal... what was the Eternal Empire that really only has one viable third base for the Zerg. I mean, Cham's going to try to take the one on the right, but look how long it's going to take for him to take that. It's just... Actually, this is such a big brain play from Ryung.
I love this. I love this so much. This is a giant giga uber brain play, in my opinion. Just coming out with something very simple, but such a smart move for the map. And we don't see that anymore because up until this point, it had always been 2 viable thirds. Like you said, since really Eternal Empire, but this is not the third you want to take as the Zerg player. Look at where you can put a siege tank up here. It's going to be so gross to try and deal with that. You're going to have a terrible time. Now, Cham, look at this. He's going for the Overlord speed before Ling speed once again. He is so convinced that Ryung is going to do something sneaky. But once more, third CC, 2-1-1.
Yeah.
Ryung, he's not doing anything really sneaky. I mean, the 2-1-1 is like, it's a bit of a different follow-up, but it's not something that's a cheese where you need to go unscouted for it to work.
Now, I got a question for you, Steadfast. I don't know how the math works out on this. We notice Cham is long-distance mining from that mineral wall instead of his actual mineral line when he is not maxed out on the mineral line itself, right? He was at 10 out of 16, now he's 15 out of 16. Does the fact that this is a gold mineral patch, does that actually make that somewhat cost-effective, or is that just a mistake there from Cham? I don't know how the math works out.
Regardless of whether it does or not, I think it's pretty much close to parity, although it's probably a little bit better to mine from the natural. I think the fact that you open the path makes it worthwhile. Whether it's cost efficient or not, ooh, we're gonna see a bit of a YOLO, but nope, he's gonna back away. Okay, Cham had enough Lings in position to discourage Ryung, and this was the similar setup as the previous game. Now Ryung, he's gonna try and get into the main base for a bit of a scout, but the Queen was in position. Reaper was low on HP.
Now look at this. Is a very, it's not going to happen, but it's 430 Steadfast, and Cham is trying to take a fourth base. Honestly, probably a saving grace against what Ryung is doing because, well, it's going to be yes, it is a TY 2-1-1, but it is still going to be a 2-1-1 at the end of the day. So that feels like it was going to be a fourth base guaranteed to go down anyways. Overlord goes down. Cham supply blocked once again. Remember, Steadfast, what lost Cham game number 2? He was supply blocked at 98. Anything that slows you down when you're trying to hold something like a 2-1-1, it's a problem. So let's see if this is going to be enough now for Ryung to find the similar level of damage he got in that first game.
Yeah, that's the big question. It's unlikely that we'll see Cham having the exact same situation happen, but look at the worker count. He's actually on a pretty terrible worker count considering the stage of the game, and part of that is because he went for this early overlord speed. Part of that is getting supply blocked again, having to build some extra overlords here. Ryung's economy is just great given the game state. I'm loving this situation for Ryung once again. And to speak to what you were talking about, oh, okay, looks like he's going to go after the fourth. If he went into the main base, there's actually nothing to see it just yet, and the Lings and Roaches were not in position. But now they are going to be in position around this base, and that should be enough. Ooh, does he fake the drop into the main and go back to the fourth? No, he's actually going to unload. I wouldn't have minded just unloading back on the low ground. Does actually lose how many Marines? Yeah, he loses 2 Marines for just 4 Lings, so completely different situation from game number 2.
Yeah, and it's also kind of one of those things where we look at the players like Ryung, who are the best of the best at these 2-1-1 builds. They wouldn't have lost a single Marine yet. You know, Ryung, he was a little slow in picking up his Marines. We saw him pick up into the main base. He loaded one medevac, didn't load the other for a second. These are small things, but
they do add up.
They do, and when we're looking at players that are trying to play with the big dogs here on day, for the rest of the tournament, those are the things we have to pay attention to. But for right now, that's a dead queen. That's going to be very nice, and this drop finds its way into the fourth base once again. But a queen is nice. You're looking for economy. You're looking for something more, and I love what Cham has done here in this third game. These are quick spores, but considering how Ryung has to play given the build that he has, dropping 3 spores on like the one droppable edge on this main base, that it denies an entire playstyle from Ryung in this game.
Yeah, no, and especially on a map like Neo Humanity where dropping between this fourth and the main, normally we'd say it's the third, but in this case is of course the fourth. It's a really great decision. It's just going to make things a lot simpler. When you're playing Ravager Ling Bane, obviously you don't have Hydras, you don't have Mutas, so the anti-air is just kind of non-existent. So you need something that can shove those medevacs away, and I like this very much. We are going to be seeing an attack on the right side from Ryung, clearing up a little bit of creep, getting another queen. And he's going to pick the fight against the Roaches with 1-1 on the Marines. It's not terrible for him, but it's still not amazing. He does get a denial on the 5th base. Meanwhile, on the left side in Ryung, I mean, he's just playing great. I mean,
it's now equalized, but Steadfast, look at the supply here. This is a Cham. Yes, he's playing Roach Ravager Ling Bane. He's getting melee upgrades for the Zerglings, but this is still a player that is Roach dominant in his supply, Roach Ravager dominant. And up until right now, Cham was behind in supply. Oh, great pick off there. He's going to find 1-2 Banes. Now, he's actually going to target fire a couple more here as he micros backwards, just barely off creep. And yes, Cham does have Roaches. He has Ravagers. It's a little harder for Ryung to just play at the edge of creep and win the fight because he has good micro. But even still, great pickoffs once again. Just continues to find more and more value. but Cham is a lot more stable in this game than he was in game number 2. He has only lost, what, 1 drone? Like this, early on, really minimal stuff. And he's getting himself into that next layer of tech. He's got Infestation Pit halfway done. He's going to get a Hive soon enough. I think we might see this go into Broodlord tech once again. And we're going to have to see now, can Cham do what he wanted to do at the start of that last game before that Greater Spire got... Well, no, at game 1 before the Greater Spire got sniped.
Yeah, that's a big question. Broodlord timings these days are a lot more potent than they once were. By the way, very important thing to mention, one of these creep tumors got missed. It did not get killed by scan. We're going to see a huge Ravager Ling Bane attack coming in from multiple sides, but the planetary is done just about in time. Oh no, Ryung just shot his own tank. Uh-oh. That's not what you want at all.
No, it really isn't. This attack was mistimed the first time, but the second time now Cham comes in on every side. Baneling's find the mineral line here. Are they going to get the planetary too? Gets very low. Repair is going to be good enough for the moment. And now Ryung gets on top of things. The Biles are not going to get it either. And now Ryung, from a position where it's like, oh wow, that's a massive attack. He slaps down the left side, loses a tank, sure, to his own tanks, but he knocks down the right side, keeps his base alive, and now here comes Ryung. His 2-2 is just about done. He slapped that attack down super hard. They're not enough Banelings to make this happen until the Banelings connect on top of everything, I guess, but this is still a terrifying push from Ryung. What can he get done with it?
He's got a lot of potential. He did fight just before his 2-2 completed. Really overly eager here, but he is still riding a 25 army supply lead. Sorry, 35 army supply lead for the moment. Finally, Scans clears up this last creep tumor. He kept the base alive, which was so unbelievably clutch. He's got 8 racks worth of production. He's got tanks. He's got +1 vehicle weapons now finished for them as well. This is looking extremely promising for Ryung, but he just lost a lot of the momentum that he kind of earned off the back of that great defense.
I mean, yes, he lost the attacking momentum. Yes, Cham kept that base alive. But Ryung now has this 4th base a lot more solidly than he did. He's got sensor towers up. He's holding the watchtowers, which are the reason that in the late game, Zergs hate this map, right? The Terran can get so much vision of where you are on your kind of your outlying bases. And so while he didn't kill a base, yes, this is true, Steadfast, while he didn't get much economic damage, he's been able to establish a ton of map control, which is arguably even more important as we go into the late game. But I want to bring your mind to one other thing. Yes, we see the pathogen glands going down. It's double Spire coming in from Cham.
Yes, and it is going to be the second Spire for upgrades. The first one, well, both for upgrades, but it is going to be that Greater Spire morph. And we'll have to see if he's going to try and hit a bit of a timing with this. But the fact that it is double Spire means it's probably going to be him going hardcore into the late game. Meanwhile, big drop on the right side. Will get deflected here, but he can't kill it. Not yet. He doesn't have any anti-air. And Ryung's just going to kind of get to chill a little bit here. We see Cham getting ready with some static defenses trying to come on in. But for now, this is going to kind of settle down a little bit as both players get their late game tech set up.
Yeah, but if there's anything where I think I favor Ryung in this matchup, I mean, going into this, we're talking about how it probably is Cham favored. It's the late game. It's once you get onto 5-6 bases, and it's more of a mech playstyle, right? It's ghosts, tanks. It's not this high tempo, high octane bio playstyle that Ryung is, in fairness, been playing very well into, and that is a dirty position for these Marines to find. All the Lings are going to go down. Yes, the medevac has fallen, but he actually, oh, look at the target fire. He gets every single Baneling, and that means he can maybe deny, okay, never mind, Baneling's on the left side. He's not going to deny +1 range, but damage on the right side. More work is going down. Steadfast, we've been talking about Ryung's mechanics in TVZ, maybe a little lacking. He's swarming in the late game.
He is doing such a good job right here, hitting in 3 places at once. He's going to knock out a base of his opponent. He's killed 18 drones. He's getting so many at this 5th base location. And he can just lift up. He kills the Corruptor in order to cover the medevacs. Ooh, I don't like that he's going into the main base, though. He knows there's spores, and he knows there's Corruptors. The thing that this tells me is he probably wants to trade out the supply as much as anything. Nice little fungal growth here. And that's going to allow for a little bit of a cheaper cleanup for Cham. But Ryung, he's replacing all of this with a Thor. He's getting more ghosts. He's got his 3-3 done. His +2 vehicle weapons is finishing up. He's going to see, we're going to see an attack coming in through the middle. This has tanks, ghosts, as well as the bio and medevacs. This is going to be tough to hold. do have to be careful about the fungal. Fungal growth is very good on creep, allowing the Lings and Banes to get some connections. And there's not much to tank for the tanks. The Ghosts are still going to be able to drive this Zerg army back.
Yeah, and we are seeing really the impact there of the Ghost Snipe nerf. A meta ago, a patch ago, most of that army would have died on the retreat. Instead, a couple roaches fell, but not much more than that. And that allows Cham to be a little bit more cost-effective, to force Ryung back a little bit further from his doorstep. But the one thing I want to point out here, Steadfast, somehow those watchtowers, right, that fall down, that kill your army, that trap you in the middle, they actually don't do damage, they're still up in this game. And considering how actually Zergs like this in the early game, because you kill those rocks quickly, Hellions can't get close, everything else that's happened, I'm surprised those rocks are still up. But that being said, here comes Cham moving in. Once again, the Ghosts have to micro backwards. They don't have personal cloaking just yet, but Cham can't run off creep. His army does not have the tech to allow him to do so. And it seems like, as much as this bit has been a high-octane early late game, it seems like we're going much later.
Yes. And it's, I mean, both players have been gearing up for it. We didn't see the second Spire being used for additional air upgrades yet, and part of that might be because Cham, you know, he's been super broke, and as I say that, he finally maxes out again, and the first thing he does with the little bit of money he started saving up, +2 flyer attacks, +1 flyer carapace, and a +3 melee. So I like that decision very much. Meanwhile, there is a base from Cham that, well, he's just not going to be able to keep. However, he's going to find these tanks very much exposed. The Ghost out of position, and the Broodlords will be able to snipe them down pretty quickly. There's not a whole lot right now that deals with Broodlords particularly well. It's going to be up to the snipes, but as I say that, the snipes are going to reign supreme for a little bit. Baneling's not quite close enough to cover, and actually where the Infestors doesn't have any more snipes coming on down, getting some huge connections on those Broodlords. Only 5 left. Well, I mean, if the Ghosts get their snipes, they do plenty well against Broodlords.
And remember, Steadfast, with all the changes, it's all about the Banelings at this stage in the game, because, well, Marines can actually fight Broodlings. They don't stack nearly as hard because, again, of that change. That was an army that Cham had that even if the Ghosts didn't snipe all the Broodlords down, they got a lot of them. What is that?
It's the reptile crate.
I don't think I've seen that like in any of the game. Haven't noticed it at least.
It's a solid snake reference, obviously, for anyone who's not familiar, but very cute.
I'm sorry, I was saying serious things about this StarCraft game.
Gotcha.
Anyways, here comes the army of Cham. Once again, massive snipes are going to go down. There's nothing to break this. And, okay, EMP is on top of the Infestors. They're not going to get all that much done, but the tanks in the front line and the Baneleys come crashing through. But again, it's just not cost effective. And the snipes on the trailing unit, some of them will fall. And there we go. Infestor gets tagged. But now here we go. The army moves forward. The Vile's trying to keep it back. But this army from Ryung, it doesn't feel like it's something that Cham can contest. And he's going to lose the rich gas base.
Yes, he is. He was able to mine a lot of gas out of there, but he has lost so many more resources than his opponent. He is down nearly, what is that, 12,500, almost 13,000 resources at this point. We've got Ryung mass expanding behind this. He's taken the 6 o'clock base. He's taking this base on the, what do you call that, like the 2:30, you know, maybe a late lunch, early dinner base. He's already mined out of his highly contested middle base, which is just such a great positional setup. And now he starts turning on the jets again. He's going to come in with a little bit of multitasking. The split from Ryung. Oh, look at him go, baby. He's 35 years old, and he doesn't give a damn.
Now, Steadfast, how many times do we see a Terran taking a base from a Zerg in the late game? It's always about going and the Zerg wants to take a base from the Terran before they even take them back. So that's just the level of map control, really, that we're seeing from Ryung right now. So then I got to ask you the question. This is this game where Ryung is looking so good. Resources lost heavily in his favor. Bank, heavily in his favor. Trades, heavily in his favor. Tech, same thing. What does Ryung have to do to try to claw his way back into this? Like, what is there one thing that he can do that kind of equalizes?
Cham, yeah, I mean, he's got to find a way to keep the creep spread up. Maybe burrow Infestors, Neural Parasite on the Ghosts. Try and get something done with that. Ryung is just not given a much opportunity, though, and Ryung is continuing to keep Cham from building a bank. No, we are going to see the units on the left side. Well, they're going to be forced back once again. By the way, I'm not sure if Ryung is 35. I think I'm not sure exactly the age, but that was the number that came to my head. he is certainly one of the more grizzled pro gamers, that is for sure. Oh, Snipes in the middle, gonna find some of the Broodlords again, and he'll be able to get out before any fungal growth or punish can happen.
3 Broods, an Infestor as well. God. Like, we talk about Ryung as this, look, he's got good positioning. He is able to play players around the map. He expands really well. This is the best TVZ I've seen him play like all this year. You know, he just does not.
Yes.
He does not split well. He does not multitask nearly to the level that we're seeing today. But Steadfast, you know, last year, Ryung qualified to the round of 12. We got to interview him. He said, "My body Ryung, but my soul Maru." Well, you know what, Steadfast, today he's looking like his body is Maru too, because this is just. I'm not saying the game's over. Certainly not. But the way this game has been happening right now, it feels like someone took over at his keyboard.
It certainly feels like he is playing some of his best StarCraft right now. Something about the IEM Katowice round of 36, it just awakens something in our boy Ryung, and he is doing such a great job. Snipes down a bunch of spines, gets up again into the medevacs. His multitasking is looking so good. Meanwhile, he now catches his opponent out of position here. I'd love to see a scan in the middle to check on where the army is, that he doesn't get out positioned himself, but he's getting back in here. He's got these +3, well, soon to be 3/2 Thors. He's got a bunch of ghosts, and he's going to turn his opponent away. He does kind of give up the momentum on this right side base, but I like the idea of just saying, hey, I'm ahead. I'm going to keep my territory. You can keep yours for now. But if things keep going the way they will, I will win this game. As I say that, though, what just killed 9 SCVs? Was it Ryung killing them himself?
I think so. He's still at 71. He's maxed out immediately.
Oh, yeah.
He's not building more.
Nothing on the map.
Yeah. But okay. Broodlords, they find their way on the right side. This is a powerful siege from Cham, and actually he's going to be able to try to cut the army off at the pass, but there are so many ghosts here. Yeah, seems like Ryung will lose this base. +3 Broodlord, or +2 Broodlords. They are powerful, but here's the question, Cham. Is it worth losing a base for? Because, well, Ryung had an opportunity to go try to snipe the base, but both players not looking at the left side for a second. Cham brings his army over. Ryung kills some larva, and then both at the same time, they realize that they actually should deal with that left side. So Ryung does have to back up, and if Cham continues to do things like that, you know, take no damage, force Ryung's counterattacks, he's multitasking away, and start to kill some of Cham's bases, or Ryung's bases, maybe that's what he needs. But he's going to have to do that for a while, because we're still looking at a 15,000 resources deficit.
Look at that command center landing as the... It's not a big deal, but it's neat to see it being that down to the wire right there. We do see... a lot of drones being found on this left side. Meanwhile, attack through the middle. There is no neural parasite here, so he cannot steal those Thors. He needs neural, like, desperately. Oh, the EMPs on the infestors. Oh, it's huge.
Oh, yeah, you talk about no neural fine, but there was no vision there as well, so the Ghost Hit Squad moves forward, and there was no way Cham could hold that position anymore. I guess good news for Cham, he didn't actually go, and he didn't try to take the fight afterwards. He just backed up. He didn't say, I could do it anyways. But okay, now Nuke to clear up this position. Cham, don't be solar. Cham, don't be solar, but there's what is that? No, there's no detection here. He doesn't see it? Okay, no, he knocks it down. Never mind. There's Overseers. I lied. I got excited.
Don't be solar, don't be solar. Oh, poor solar. Always out here catching strays.
Oh, poor solar.
Whenever nukes are on the menu, you have to mention the man who's been nuked more than anyone. We do see a little bit of harassment, finding a couple more drones. But the big deal is that Ryung is now taking both contested bases on the wings. And I mean, there's a lot of big deals, but that is another big deal. Attacking up this ramp is not the play here for Cham. He's going to try and get down with the Broodling. He's got a lot of Broodlings, actually, but they do expire so quickly. Nice fungal growth on the Thors. Hello, where are the Ghosts? They're not landing anything. The Broodlords are actually really getting some good work done, but now the Thors are starting to turn their payloads on those Broodlords. Oh, it's hard to say, but actually, no, it's not hard to say. Cham loses so much, and Ryung keeps the majority of those big Thors alive.
Steadfast, I want to point one thing out here. Yes, the first fungal landed, but Ghost ran forward. They EMP'd the rest of them. So, yeah, there was one good fungal, but just not enough at the end of the day. And now Cham is remaxed, but he spent so much of his money at this point. Nuke goes down, zoning everything out, and it seems like Cham is destined to lose this middle base for a second time in this game. Not as valuable as it once was. There's no gas here. Minerals are roughly mining out. It's only going to be on 4 mineral patches soon enough. But it's map control, it's positioning, it's production. As this The single corruptor is going to try to kill this base, and I don't think there's building armor. No, there is. Never mind. It's going to take a while.
And he leaves anyway.
He thought about it.
Oh, I think Caustic Spray ignores building armor.
Oh no, I think you're right.
Cancel
Yeah.
on the middle hatchery. Yeah, because it's an ability, so it should ignore armor, I think.
Yeah, I think so. One thing I also want to point out here, we talked about the rocks in the middle of the map for early on. I'm surprised it hasn't gone down. They're just catching strays, over the course of this game. They're going to fall down at some point, and there's a world where
could be hilarious.
Could be fantastic. For now, though, Ryung does get the base on the right side, but here comes Cham once again. I don't think this is a fight you want here, Cham.
Not so much, no. Now the Broodlord or the Thors are having a tricky time getting kind of deblocked. But another good EMP hits the front line. Infestors catches 3 or 4 of them right away. Base on the right side got knocked out. Cham is broke as a joke. He finally adds on that Neural Parasite. Almost 25 minutes into the game here. He needed it a long time ago. But I really don't know what he can do. The only thing I'll say is that Ryung doesn't have a great gas bank. Cham with 6 drones just kind of lost. There's no mining now for Cham, is there? There's basically the equivalent of 1 base worth of mining.
Yeah, and the crazy thing, Steadfast, how many times have we seen a Zerg lose in a scenario like this? Because, they got plenty of minerals, but their army needs to be so gas expensive that they just run out of gas. Cham is losing in the late game because he's running out of minerals, which feels weird, especially on a map where you have a rich gas base. But even still, Cham has no mining on the right side. You're right, he has those 2 bases on the left. He's going to start to run into production woes soon enough. He's got 12 larvae on the map right now. But he did buy the time, or at least Ryung waffled enough. And now Neural Parasite is going to finish, and Steadfast, we've seen some neural miracles.
That we have, but I don't know if there's any miracle that's big enough today. Now, one miracle would be a nuke on your own army. Okay, Ryung cancels it very quickly. Wise, of course. The base goes down in the middle again. Ryung is tightening the noose. It is growing ever tighter as time progresses. And I gotta say, this is looking just outstanding here from Ryung. We questioned his TVZ form, and he has answered in a big way.
Yeah, Steadfast. This is a 4-hatch Zerg at this point. As the Broodlords, they're still scary. They do still pack a wallop. But you got to be, and there we go, great scan. We're going to have to make sure that Ryung takes advantage of this. The entire rest of it is, those fungals are going to be nice, right? This drop is eventually going to get dealt with. But even still, they're trading things away that Cham cannot afford. And as a result of this, Cham finds himself supply blocked from losing those hatcheries. He's not going to be able to get the map in the middle. And this nuke is going to get canceled once again. It's just a zoning nuke. It's forcing forcing Cham to never defend the one base that Cham, or the base that Cham desperately needs. So now it's a 4-hatch Zerg. The production is going to struggle. Cham has to build 7 overlords at a time. That's 700 minerals he doesn't have.
Yeah, he can't afford that at all.
Did you just?
Did he just? Yeah. I don't know what he just did. He canceled his own hatch, but regardless, we're going to see an attack coming on in. The scan sees the infestors. He EMPs the front line half again. Cham cannot engage. Ryung is all over him here. Every time the Broodlords step forward, they're taking big shots. We even see the great addition of the Blue Flame Hellbat. Here comes the Neurals from the bottom side. He's going to grab multiple Thors, and that will be a very good engagement to start things off here from Cham. But is it going to be enough? No, as the Neurals expire, we see the Thors turning back against the Zerg army, and the lift on top of it. He is going to obliterate the Broodlords in the sky. Ryung, he's got a date with a qualifying match.
That he does. Cham tried to find some last-ditch opportunity, killing his own base to get Broodlings out in time, but it's not going to matter here because Ryung, his soul is not just Maru here, it's his body as well. And he moves on 2 years in a row to a qualifying